Well, hi everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our Navigating Fertility Around the Holidays event hosted by Kindbody and Rescripted. So happy to have you here. Thanks for spending your evening with us as we talk about the challenges related to going through fertility struggles around Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all the other holidays this time of year. So I'll let our panelists introduce themselves.
I'll go first since I'm the first face on there. I'm Meredith Brower, and I am one of the fertility specialists here at Kindbody. I'm based in both of our Santa Monica and Century City offices. Yeah, and I'm excited to be here to sort of introduce you to Kindbody and add any perspective or insight from the medical perspective in terms of some of the special things and that apply to managing or dealing with fertility around the holidays. And I'm so excited to be here with some of my favorite people. So I'll let Maya, you want to go next?
Yes, I'm assuming I'm one of your favorite people, Meredith.
You are one of my favorite people, Maya.
I'm Maya, one of Meredith Brower's favorite people, and I am a therapist. I'm a California licensed clinical social worker, and I mainly work with people who are struggling to conceive, to build their family, or building their family in alternative ways. And I'm one of Kindbody's California-based therapists. And before transitioning my career to doing this work, I was also a patient for the better part of 4 years. I had a 5-year infamous journey to parenthood, but I would say 4 solid years of being in it, which means that I myself had some personal, pretty challenging holidays for different reasons. So personal and professional perspectives. And I will pass it to Judy.
Hi, I'm Judy Kotick, and I am also with my favorite people from Kindbody. We are part of the team that's been here from the beginning. I was one of the first Kindbody therapists when we had one New York office only, and we've come a long way since then. So it's been really exciting to be part of this amazing organization that's spreading the message. And I work with people at Kindbody who are experiencing all aspects of fertility struggles and third-party reproduction. And it's really great to be here to talk about this really important topic.
Thank you, Judy. Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Hodgden. I'm co-founder and chief creative officer at Rescripted. We are a global media platform and community for fertility and pregnancy loss, providing technology tools and resources for wherever you are on your family building journey. So we do have a free fertility support community if you want to check it out after at rescripted.com.
That's me. So I'm going to start before we're going to get into really the heart of this in just a minute, but I wanted to introduce everybody a little bit to Kindbody, and then Kristen's going to introduce you in a little more detail to Rescripted. And then Judith and Maya will really be talking about some of the emotional pieces that are unique again to dealing with infertility around this time of year. So Kindbody is a full service fertility clinic. We have locations across the entire country. As Judith mentioned, we started out just in New York and then in San Francisco and LA. And I want to say we have 30 locations now across the entire country, which is just wild. It's all happened in a very short period of time. And I think that Kindbody is unique. I mean, there are obviously many fertility clinics across the country. And I think one of the things that makes Kindbody unique is that we really were founded and established with the mission of making care accessible and approachable. And I think even as we have grown in a speed that is really unfathomable, we are still sort of holding on to those two missions. And I think part of, as you can see here, part of what Kindbody does in making care accessible is that in addition to providing care, we have a whole team of people who are out there trying to convince employers to offer employees a benefit. And that is so, it's a game changer. It really does change who can access care and how people access care. So that's really the other half of who we are at Kindbody, is that we are also a benefit, and trying to make it easier for employers to offer fertility benefits to everybody is the goal. So that's it. And then this slide sort of, as I mentioned, we are a full spectrum fertility clinic at all of our clinics. And we do everything from preconception counseling to fertility preservation to, fertility treatments, traditional fertility treatments. We do egg and sperm donation. We do, surrogacy, gestational carrier work. So everything you could ever need to build your family, we help you access in our clinics and Kindbody. The other thing that we do is we try our best to offer a more comprehensive version of care, which isn't just the sort of the medical piece, but the other part, the wellness and the nutrition and the mental health piece. So you can see Maya and Judith are here today. They are part of our Kindbody team. And they are also supporting our patients, which what I would argue is like 50, just as important as the medical piece. So we are so lucky to have them be part of our teams. Because I'm in California, my patients don't get to see Judith because of licensing, but they see Maya all the time and they come back. I actually had a patient recently call her radical. So, I mean, she just is, she's an angel. They both are, and the way that they, so yes, a patient who was reluctant, I said, you have to go see Maya. And they thought they knew everything and they were fine. And they went and saw her and they said, Maya is radical. So I
have my tombstone all set.
Kindbody is both in sort of providing the medical piece, but all the other pieces that patients need to support them in their journey as well.
That's so important.
Yes, which is so important. It's essential, really.
I always say, give me all of the IVF shots. That's the mental and emotional piece that is the hardest.
100%. And this is just a little bit of the same here. I think, again, we talked about access. That's part of our mission. I mentioned that we want the care to be approachable and comprehensive. And so, again, I think in that approachable piece, which I haven't really discussed, it's approachable and that you can have the information you need through your portal, that the portal makes it easy to access your providers and access your billing team and everything that you need to actually get the steps done. It's approachable, and that the spaces are designed to be warm and unintimidating, and the people are approachable, that the teams have been, the people have been selected to be the people you see in the clinics, your sonographers, your medical assistants and nurses, because they are kind, warm people. So those are the ways that we try to keep it sort of feeling, unintimidating. So that's it. And then I think that's sort of an introduction to Kindbody. And then Kristen's going to introduce us a little bit to Rescripted.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brower. So Rescripted, where do I begin? First and foremost, Rescripted is a media platform created by fertility patients for fertility patients. We're all about the patient. I didn't mention it in my intro, but I am somewhat of an IVF veteran. I have 4-year-old twins from IVF, but I also just came off a year-long IVF journey that experienced 2 miscarriages and 2 failed IVF transfers. And I'm sort of on a break right now trying to figure out my next steps, but I truly empathize with what all of you are going through potentially. And, I'm in the thick of it with you, so you're not alone. I actually started Rescripted 5 years ago when I was going through my first journey as a personal blog, and kind of took my background in publishing. And after I finished kind of sharing my own story, I started sharing other people's stories, and it really struck a nerve. And it was like, why aren't more people talking about fertility and infertility and pregnancy loss? And it sort of evolved into this global media platform where we talk about the hard things. And it's really a guide for you from your first period to your last period. Like if you're just starting out trying to conceive, you can come to our site and, figure out the difference between PMS and early pregnancy. If you're in the thick of IVF and thinking about donor eggs, you can find content about that. We also have our free fertility support community. Sorry, I was trying to switch slides. We have our free fertility support community with over 10,000 fertility patients and members. So you can meet and connect with others who get it. We have AMAs with fertility experts. We have medication management videos, really content for every stage of the journey alongside this really supportive community. We also have a pharmacy with inexpensive fertility meds and a marketplace with curated fertility products. So I like to say we're sort of a one-stop shop outside of your fertility clinic for content, community, and commerce. And we also have 2 podcasts. That is us. So now we're going to dive into navigating fertility around the holidays.
Yeah, so I'm going to, again, Judith and Maya will take the bulk of this, but things that I hear from patients in the clinic, or I know from taking care of patients for many years, is that, fertility journeys are always hard. It's always hard. But I think that this time of year, around Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's some extra special challenges that we want to talk about today. And some of them are logistic. Embryology labs close, people travel. So there can be just literally some things that make it harder to execute your care. And then there's the emotional piece too, right? It's a time of year where you can't isolate a lot of times, right? You are being forced to travel, or encouraged to travel. You're seeing people you haven't seen for a long time. You're gathering in big groups. It's about family, right? Holidays are family-centric things. And that is like a special emotional challenge. You really can't separate yourself oftentimes. So that is sort of what I observe, caring for people in the clinic. And so Judith and Maya are here today to talk to us about all that.
Yeah, very well said. It's exactly it. Sometimes there's just no choice. You have to be around your family, and other times you're maybe handcuffed to your ovaries and can't travel and see anybody, right? And so there are definitely, a variety of scenarios. And I think, we just kind of wanted to start off by normalizing this experience for everybody, and kind of just talking about like, well, why is this so hard sometimes from an emotional standpoint? And for a lot of people, the end of the year, like birthdays and other specific markers of time, just accentuate this idea of loss. And I think in the fertility world, and when you're on, this journey to parenthood, there's so many different elements of loss. Just having to conceive with, Dr. Brower, you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're lovely, but in all honesty, most of your patients, had a different intention. I shouldn't say most, a lot of patients had a different intention when they started their process of family building, that maybe it would happen at home. So there's sort of like a loss of intimacy that happens sometimes for people. There are actual losses when it comes to, obviously, embryos that don't make it, or loss of, pregnancies that are really wanted, and all these different things. But I think the passage of time and the loss of time is a very specific grief experience that this time of year brings up for a lot of people. And I think part of that is that idea that what you expected is really different than your reality. And I think a lot of us that set out to, on this journey, you go, okay, well, by this time next year, or you sort of set these dates in our heads that will mark this, like, okay, this will be closed by the time, the holidays come around, so that I'll have something positive to announce. And when we don't get there just yet, it can be really upsetting. And that gap between what we expected or anticipated or hoped for and the reality of our current situation, sometimes it's just really painful for people to kind of sit in that middle space there. And again, right, it's like sometimes we can't travel because we're, in cycle in some way, or because we've spent all of our funding on treatment. It's not a cheap process. So, they're just different reasons. Or the opposite, you are going to travel now that the world's opened up a bit post-COVID. Well, I shouldn't say post-COVID, but post the intensity of COVID. You just might kind of be thrown into situations and have anxiety about the questions you're going to be asked, so what's going on with you? And, those just, how are you, can feel like a loaded question sometimes when you're feeling kind of emotionally fragile in different ways. And you just might not have as much tolerance or patience for the usual family dynamics that happen for some people during the holidays. And then, of course, there's just, I work with so many different people, and my sister-in-law is pregnant, or there'll be 3 new babies there. And it's so hard because, there's this jealousy that is really normal as part of the feeling. And it's hard to understand because so many people struggle with that. It's like they're happy that their overall families have expanded, but at the same time, and they love babies and all of these things, but they're just not a part of that club yet. And so it just can really, really hit home sometimes. You just wish things were different, and you wish it was also your turn, and, different feelings come up and things like that. And sometimes it's just having to like celebrate when you just kind of feel like curling into a ball and eating a lot of leftover Halloween candy. And, sometimes it's hard to just put it on. And, I guess, I don't know, Judy, maybe you brought this up the other day, but also sometimes you have been in a hard place and you do feel like celebrating, but then there's some kind of cognitive dissonance that happens where you're like, well, I should be so happy because I've been struggling, or, I think you said it better, Judy, but just sort of this idea that it's also okay if you're just feeling like, yeah, I'm going to just be here and have fun. But also sometimes if you have a partner, they might be in a different space. So it's hard to always be aligned emotionally, with a partner if there is one.
Healing and grief are not linear.
Right. Yeah, so I just wanted to first put in a plug for Rescripted, because one of the things that people talk about feeling when they go through fertility treatment is feeling isolated. Some people are very private and they don't feel like talking to other people about it, or maybe not the details, and you can feel very alone when everyone else in your world is, getting pregnant and having babies. So I think it's really important to find a community like that where you are communicating with people who really get it and understand. And I think it can be especially helpful during the holidays, because holidays mean different things to different people. For some people, it's always been the most special time of the year and they've always looked forward to it. And they have, traditions and rituals that they do every year that they look forward to. And maybe this year, not so much, or maybe the past 2 years, and so I think one of the things that helps is to kind of visualize what you think it's going to be like, because your family, who's going to be there, and the people who might trigger the difficult feelings. So if you can sort of strategize how you want to deal with that, or what you want to say if someone asks you the question you don't want to be asked, is to come up with an answer. And sometimes it can be helpful to pick a safe person, whether it's your spouse or your sister or somebody that's going to be there, and sort of let them know that if you are starting to feel really bad, panicky, angry, that you will go to them and and you can let them know what would be helpful for them to help you. I've also had people talk about picking someone who's not there, who they can text. So, you have a friend who's at their Thanksgiving or their Christmas, and if you really need an outlet, you can just text them and say, yep, so-and-so asked the question I knew they would ask, or, I'm in the bathroom because this isn't going the way I wanted it to. Just so you have someone to help you feel not isolated. And yeah, you want to take care of yourself. There are times in your life when you really want to be there for other people and you really want to be selfless and generous. But when you're going through fertility treatment, you want to take care of yourself. So if that means leaving early or going into a dark room and lying down or going outside for a walk, you don't want to worry about what other people think. Not this Christmas, not this Hanukkah, not this Thanksgiving. And, also to try to have the perspective that this is one holiday. Fertility treatment can feel like it lasts forever, and sometimes it does. I mean, 5 years, 4 years, that's a long time. That's a lot of holidays. But at some point, it won't always be like that. So, just to remember that there are going to be future holidays, and this one doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, I'm going to just piggyback on that for a second, Judith, because I think that idea of zooming the lens out is actually really helpful, to be able to, because we get so focused in, during treatment. I mean, so focused in, think about like an ultrasound, right? You're looking at a follicle that is how big, Meredith, like this teeny tiny thing, but you're so zoomed in. And that's how so much of treatment feels like, every number and so sometimes just being able to go, okay, I'm going to zoom the lens, I'm going to see the bigger picture, and coming up with some kind of mantra. Like, I think mine for a while is, I'm not going to be doing this when I'm 60. Like, I just kept saying that to myself. Like, it started like, I'm not going to be doing this next year. And then I had to adjust it because that year passed. And sometimes that happens, but it isn't going to be forever. And if there's some way to sort of zoom out and get that perspective, I think sometimes that can really help be grounding and have some kind of mantra or something to remind yourself that, okay, this is this year, but things change and I'm not going to be doing this forever. I'm not going to be a fertility patient forever.
Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think it's also, this is something that I also hear from people, is that sometimes, a couple does not communicate with each other about how much they're willing to share. So one person might really want to tell their parents, we're going through a really rough time right now. It's been hard. We've been going through this for months, or our our last cycle didn't work. And the other person is like, I really need privacy. I don't want people, breathing down my neck, asking me questions. So I think it's important to just communicate, with the person you're going with your partner, so that you're on the same page and that you can compromise in some way.
Yes.
Um,
And just jumping in about social media really quickly, because social media can be so difficult when you're going through infertility, but especially during the holidays. I feel like there's just so many holiday pregnancy announcements and everything is very kid-centric. And so, give yourself grace, either take a social media break, or, if you do find solace in following, accounts like Rescripted, you can use the mute button. It's your best friend. When I was going through IVF earlier this year, after my last transfer, a couple of different people that I followed were transferring around the same time as me, and they all got pregnant, and I ended up miscarrying, and they're all muted because now they're like 20 weeks pregnant. And I'll check in every now and then, but I don't need that to be at my face every day. And so I just want to let you know that that's okay. And especially around this time of year where everyone's posting the highlight reel, that you can either mute or take a break.
That is so important. I agree. I think that social media can be a torture device for people going through a rough time about anything. But, holidays, like we said, are all about family, so it's the family photos and the babies and the announcements. So avoiding that as much as you can is good for your mental health.
Absolutely.
I like the tip, the rehearse your answer one. And I know you've talked about this before, but I'm thinking back, like as we're talking, I'm just thinking back to different clients I've seen over the years, and how this, you know, inevitably comes up for so many people, just like, what do I do? And there have been times where we've created like signs that people can, like, not actual like signs, but you know, it's like if you go like this twice, you know, like baseball signs, like signals with your partner. It's like, I need help, or I need out, or I need to go for a walk. And I think sometimes what's hard is, especially, you know, if you have a partner and aren't exactly on the same page, and it's not a big, something might not be a big deal to another person. And, you know, or one person, let's say, really wants space and is kind of anxious about a situation, and another partner feels maybe they're overreacting, or, you know, it's my brother's baby, and, you know, whatever, right? And so there's different scenarios, but I think just creating a process or a system that's comfortable between everybody. And this could also be with a sibling, you know, somebody else in your family, that they can just read that like 2 eyebrows up and a arm, you know, wave means like, get me out of here. And then that person can help, you know, let's just go for a walk, or we have an errand to run, or we're going to go pick up more, whatever, pumpkin pie. And, you know, just having that so that you can kind of just take a step back from any situations that can feel overwhelming. Like I found that to be one of the most helpful things. And we come up with some funny things so that in the moment it's kind of funny. And then that kind of breaks the intensity of big feelings also. And then, you know, then you have this kind of special private time, or, you know, something, or even like you can get somebody to call you, you know, so call, oh, I gotta step out for a second, right? If nobody's there to kind of create that escape plan or whatever. But and, you know, I think we're just, everybody's got to, like it says, right, and practice self-care that works for you. I mean, that's sort of obvious, but just throwing out some of these ideas so that people can go, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll try this, or, ooh, I know who would be a great person to save me from this scenario, or, you know, maybe there's a movie you really want to see and you just kind of want to get out and, you know, need somebody to be your partner in crime for something like that. So
I think there was something on the last slide that is one of my favorite tips, is like giving yourself permission to just say no to do things, right? Like, I think that there's so much pressure around the holidays to participate in all of it, every Christmas party and every event. And we talk about this a lot in the context of baby showers. Like, it is okay to skip baby showers for 4 years if you need to, even if it's your dearest friend. But I think that some of these events, if you predict that there might be 20 people there who ask you when you're going to have a baby, and that feels like too much, like, great, just giving yourself permission to say no to the event, to not go. So I don't know. I think
I think that is so important, that maybe you skip a holiday this time, or a party, or something that's just too difficult.
Yeah.
And to not feel bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't owe anyone an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know your own triggers, right? Like, sometimes certain people will trigger me and not others. And like, there's really no rhyme or reason to it, but it's like, you can skip one thing and not another, and go to one thing and not another. And it's like all based on how you feel that day or that week, or, you know, it's your discretion, and you don't owe anyone an explanation. So that about wraps up the presentation portion, but we are really excited to let you know that we're offering for self-pay patients a complimentary consult and 20% off IVF treatment at Kindbody. You should look for an email in your inbox tomorrow, and that link will guide you to the form so that you can sign up, and that's going to be good through December 31st. But we are not done yet. We'd love to open things up to questions and discussion. If you'd like to share your story, ask, you know, nothing's off limits here.